And we're going into round 4. If you hold the hollow one, on your next turn, you get to use the hollow one as one of your 2 spells to bring back Vengevines. By playing the hollow one, you can't use it as one of your 2 spells to play Vengevines because you didn't have a second spell that turn, and now you're down having a second spell on the next turn. So, alright, so this is where we roll really shitty again. So we still have the worst breakers because we got pared down in 1. So we get pared down again. They didn't have information on the Narset. They just chose to play Hollow One as a clock, which I can't really get behind when you need to trigger your 2 Vengevines. So we get pared down again here, and we get pared down to Sliphorn. And I'm getting a little concerned because with 2 pair downs, I'm not super thrilled with the breakers and the idea of if I go 3-2, I might lose. I might like miss out top 8 on breakers, even after starting 3-0. But so we get paired against Sliphorn, and this ends up being like just the worst possible pair down in the history of all pair downs. I have Sliphorn playing a Xerox deck, maybe Jeskai, and it turns out it's even worse than that. He chose to play blue-red with Scab Clan Berserkers. Thanks, Jerry. You'll see here. It's fucking brutal is what it is. So I probe my opponent, and their hand is like mono counterspells cantrips, and I'm very sad because I think that this hand actually has like some pretty good game against the mono cantrip counterspell hand, but it's like, oh boy, his opponent on anti-combo Xerox. That's just a fact. So like we draw well, we drew a land, we get to cast Night's Whisper, draw out the Flusterstorm. I once again choose to not pay for the Flusterstorm with Mental Misstep, just because I know they have a Pyroblast coming. I know they have a Pyroblast in their hand, so they would Pyroblast my Mental Misstep. So maybe that's wrong. Maybe I'm just supposed to force this Pyroblast out of their hand right now. I didn't consider that. Maybe that's just bad play. I can get rid of their Pyroblast right now. I don't know. Probably bad, I would say. They drew an so this ends up working out really well for me because they drew an Ancestral off the top of their library, which I force. I draw the Pyroblast, and I Mental Misstep the Pyroblast. Sorry, I meant to Mental Misstep the Ancestral. But they I don't remember them drawing a counter here. So this actually worked out really well for me. They Brainstorm and miss, and then I have Scroll for Ancestral. So I'm actually feeling really, really good about this game. Like, I navigated all their counter spells. I have a bunch of action. I'm feeling really happy. I even drew a Snapcaster to flashback this Ancestral. I do choose to play Ancestral into Force of Negation here because they're tapped out. It's worth it. I get to get my Moxen online. I'm feeling really good about this game until this fucking happens. So this is probably where I misplay. Oh, I tanked for like 4 minutes on this play. So I'm feeling like I can't ever lose this game. Opponent has like 3 cards. I have Snap Ancestral. I have Metalcraft. I'm pumped. I'm happy. I'm going to win. I'm going to be 4-0. I'm going to be locked. Then this fucking main deck Scab Clan Berserker, which is just the biggest anti-PO card. It's so good against PO. For those who don't know, it's kind of like the Camball we referenced earlier, where it's a hasty 2-2. When it hits me, it becomes a 3-3, and it has the effect whenever I cast a non-creature spell, I take 2 damage. And I don't have fucking answers for this. And that's not exactly true. If we go look, I have some answers from this. But I don't have direct answers. So let's go like, this is probably the most interesting decision of the game. So let's like go into detail here. The ways I can deal with this are, I can bounce with a Teferi. I can block or outrun it with a Monastery Mentor. Or I can like do some kind of double block with Snapcasters and Lavinias and stuff. And so here's my two avenues. I have two choices, really, I think. One, I can mystical tutor a force of will on the so it's kind of interesting, Devin. So it's not that line, but it's similar. I think I have two lines. I can mystical a force of will to the top of my library, activate my top, and force this Scab Clan Berserker. Then, if opponent has a Pyroblast or Flusterstorm as one of their two cards, I just die, and I have no cards left in hand. But I do have a top, so it's not like the end of the world. My second option is I can Mystical Tutor in response for a Demonic Tutor. With my Demonic Tutor, I can get a Monastery Mentor, and between Snapcaster Ancestral and Monastery Mentor, or Snapcaster Time Walk and Monastery Mentor, I think I can beat the Scab Clan Berserker. So my logic is, like, if I go to my turn and I play the Monastery Mentor, and I have a top, so I get one trigger, but they can't attack me, right? So I don't think Teferi does it. Yeah, eventually, we'll, like, but like they get stalled out, right? And then eventually we'll figure out a way. I just feel like the Monastery Mentor should be better than the Scab Clan Berserker. Don't know if that's actually true, but the problem with, like, Mystical for Demonic for Teferi is if we bounce this thing just has haste and it comes back and kills us anyways. And I'm, like, really worried about Pyroblast too. So there's a lot of problems with all the blue spell lines. The nice part is, like, they're probably not countering Mystical Tutor, so I can go Mystical Demonic Monastery Mentor and not worry about Pyroblast. That kind of plays around Pyroblast, which I really liked about that line. And it turned... So, let's see what I do. And the reason I didn't really want to go with Mystical for Force of Will is because I really thought that if I had a Snapcaster Mage and a Monastery Mentor, then I would be able to beat this. Because here's another avenue, right? If I do the Monastery Mentor line, and say he actually kills the Monastery Mentor, and I only get one token, I then still have token plus Snapcaster Mage to double block, which I think is, like, probably really good. I double block, I target Ancestral, damage happens, and then I draw 3 cards, and I'm probably winning. So that's my thinking, anyways. So that's why I choose. So I've already chosen. All right, so there's another layer of this, which I've now already forgotten. Because I can also choose to not Mystical, spin my top of my deck, and see if there's a Force of Will on the top of my deck. Because there's really nothing. The cost of Mystical on my upkeep is 1 mana and 2 life. But wait, I don't even have. If I do Mystical Demonic, I don't even have enough for a Mentor. They do have to kind of win. I mean, maybe they don't attack, but... So I spin and I do a last-ditch effort to find a natural Force of Will. Natural Force of Will just allows me to pitch Mystical Tutor and still have Snapcaster. Yes, so I'm spinning for Force of Will. And obviously all of those cards are blanks. Wait. Sorry, those cards are not blanks. So I just went through all the information I had, and then boom, we're changing it. Because now I know there's a Vampiric Tutor on the top of my deck. Vampiric Tutor finds Monastery Mentor in 1 card. So I no longer need to use the Mystical Tutor to find the Demonic Tutor to find the Mentor. Now I can vamp for Mentor, draw Mentor with top, play Mentor and Mystical Tutor to get a trigger. And so I'm pretty happy right now. Like, this isn't Force of Will, so I'm not the happiest, but I'm pretty happy. So I put this on top, I get hit, it's fine. We go to my turn. And then I vamp. I vamp for Mentor. I draw Mentor with top. And now I have a mentor and a trigger, which is fucking great. Because if my opponent attacks their Scab Clan Berserker here, I can Mystical Tutor to get a 3/3, and I would snap trade off this mentor for the Scab Clan every single time. 100%. Right, I talked about that show. I thought that tutoring for force was bad because it left me with no card advantage, and I think they had a Pyroblast. My read was they had a Pyroblast, so I didn't want to take a lot of the blue card lines. And I thought that with Mentor, we could have gotten there. But so this is the line I took, which I actually really think it's good. I think, well, you're gonna find out that they did have a Pyroblast, so the read was correct. So I'm pretty happy with this. But then opponent not only has a Pyroblast, but they also have a Lightning Bolt, which was the biggest fucking blowout ever. And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna get my dude so that I can double block next turn. I put what the fuck did I put on top of my library? I put a Yawgmoth's Will on the top of my library, and the reason I put a Yawgmoth's Will is because I wanted to like have action after this all happened. Like if I can, they have one card in hand, right? If I double block the Snapcaster, and I can have some action. If there was a mental misstep in my deck, I would have put the mental misstep on the top of my library, because that would have protected my Snap from Pyroblast, and I would have probably won. But I didn't have a mental misstep in my deck. So instead I go for like the most powerful action card. I don't block here because I wanted to get the double block in. And then we go. And he attacks in, and I put the Snap in, and he has a Pyroblast. So I like what we did, and it was a really interesting sequence. I was just like so sad. I was so sad. I was so sad because we were so far ahead, and then bam, Scab Clan Berserker, idiot. All right, let's go to game 2. Oh, we won a game 2. I don't remember winning a game 2. Let's find out what happens. How do we board? We adjusted the board a little bit this time. The difference in this board is I did bring in the Swords to Plowshares. I didn't bring in the balance, but I do think I brought the balance in game 3. Just to have more ways. I thought like maybe there's like one Scab Clan Berserker or something. But yeah. So this hand I'm whitelisted. I have an Ancestral with Mental Misstep and Force of Will. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember this game now. Remora's a fucking house. Yeah, so we resolved an Ancestral, and then we get to Mindbreak Trap a Null Rod, which is insane. And then we jam a Remora. We jam a DT? Oh, I DT'd for Sapphire here to turn on my Opal, turn on my PO, and be able to play Remora. I don't know if that's right, but I did do that. Kind of an interesting line. I seem to always be short on Metalcraft, even though I have one Opal in my deck. So this is great. Unfortunately, the Remora got trapped. I think I forced this, pitching Brainstorm. I think the Remora is pretty important. And I have protection against Pyro, so. So now I have an active Remora, an active 4-card PO. I think about POing here, but I decide it's bad because if opponent counters it, then I lose my Remora. So I gave away that I had a PO, but I think that's okay. I stopped myself from making a bad choice, which is probably more important. I draw Yawgmoth's Will, which is lit. I cast Yogg-Will. I get to go land Ancestral, which is lit. Very, very nice. Would Ancestral again. I drew a Force, which is good. I drew more mana, which is great because it's gonna further my chances of like having a PO where I don't lose my Remora. Opponent has a Scab Clan Berserker, which I am very scared of, so I just force that shit right away. I do keep the PO instead of the misstep. And then because they're tapped out and I don't have much going on, I do decide to PO this upkeep. This PO resolves and that's the game. So I saw another Scab Clan in this game and I was like, I'm so fucking scared. So I brought it in a balance. There's a couple decisions in this game that I want to talk about because it's pretty fast. But I have another Ancestral hand, which is just like so whitelisted. They get to see my hand, so they have perfect information. I jam a Remora here, which is great against everything that's not Scab Clan Berserker. Yep. So I didn't have to play the Remora. I could have gone for Ancestral on their turn, but I think the Remora makes more sense. So then there's a second choice here. So now I'm like, I want Swords to Plowshares or Balance. And I do keep this Remora. Here's a weird thing. I'm a little worried about Wasteland. I don't know if there's a Wasteland in their deck, so I do fetch an island. But I can choose to Ancestral. I choose to play a second Remora because all I really want to do is make sure that my Ancestral resolves. And if they can't play any like cantrips, they can't do anything without giving me huge amounts of card advantage. If they counter my Ancestral, I still draw 2 cards. My plan is to upkeep Ancestral with all the Remora triggers on the stack, make sure that shit resolves, probably not pay for all the Remoras, and then try to find the Swords or the Balance. So I play the Remora, and I'm not sure if it's 100% correct. It might be better to just play the Ancestral right now. But the problem with the Ancestral is like I'm not playing any more Moxen. It's just kind of weird. I don't know if this is right, but I chose to play the second Remora, and they, of course, reward me with second Scab Clan Berserker. I wasn't able to watch the LEC this morning because I've been doing this for the past couple hours. Yeah, so not good for the home team. So technically, I still have outs here because if I Ancestral into Balance, I can balance away their Berserkers. I didn't draw Balance. An opponent actually told me that they had a Flusterstorm here, so I was just fucked. It was not a winning scenario for Justin. So this was the worst pair down I could ever have asked for. Opponent has 4 main deck Pyroblast and main deck Scab Clan Berserkers, which is just you never want to see that as the PO player. Never want to see that. So that was rough. So now I'm scared because I've been paired down twice. I just got a loss. I'm feeling like if I lose this round, I might miss top 8 on breakers.